of democracies of the world deliberated upon the definition of true freedom and on how democracies can be saved from dictatorial countries. We are in a time where the meaning of colonization and power politics is changing and the definition of freedom has started to blur. In the new world, data is the new oil and data is the wealth which the colonizers have their eyes on for monopolization of control and for power. In the old world, to colonize another country, you required ships and marine power. But in today's tech-led world, ships have been replaced by another form of logistics called optic fiber logistics, which moves the wealth of data from one country to another. Tech companies like Google and Meta, which ultimately control this data, have valuations to the tune of $3 trillion, which is more than the economy of India. In this episode of Logistically Speaking, I will be talking about what this form of data colonization means for the future of democracies. The definition of a colony is a country or an area under the full or partial political control of another country, and colonization is when a weak country is captured by a stronger power, leading to cultural, lifestyle and economic changes. If we go by this traditional definition, India is neither a colony of any other country nor are the lives of its citizens affected. But when we dig deeper, a different story starts to emerge. We as a population do not know or worry about our data and seems to happily hand it over on a platter to all the tech companies of the world. Without our knowledge, this data that we so easily hand out ends up being used to control what food we eat, what brands we buy and what opinion we form, and even who we vote for in an election. Apple entered our home with mobile and along with it brought in Facebook and Google. And soon Amazon with Alexa was in our bedroom turning on our lights. Ultimately, all these devices track and compile our personal information and know about us more than we do. In a free world, it's perfectly right that all corporates explore different horizons to expand their business. But do not forget that be it the British, Dutch, French, Portuguese or Spanish, all initially entered the countries that they later colonized with the intent to do business. It was only gradually that they extended their business interests and started intervening in governance, eventually taking complete control over these countries and their citizens. And now, colonizing a country is easier than before since it no longer requires disruptive military invasion. Today, it can be done quietly by controlling activities through networks and databases from the comfort of algorithms with a single click.
India aims to become the technological capital of the world. We have to maintain sanctity of our data. Otherwise, we might find that this data is going to lie in the hands of a few corporates in the world. And this might be detrimental to the growth of our ingrown software companies and the country at large.
These points will help you understand our current status better. Number one, all the tech corporates are investing heavily in artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things and cloud computing to analyze data and manipulate it as per their interest to push the product they want to sell, and even influencing who gets elected as heads of states. And number two, right from our wristwatches, mobile phones to cars or online payment and almost every tech-enabled device of gadgets we use is collecting massive amount of data from us. For example, the proximity tracking of a couple's mobile enables these tech giants to define the closeness of their relationship. In other words, tech companies know more about you than even your spouses does. Number 3, data colonization is starting a new social order based on the continuous tracking of our devices and online lives. And unfortunately, millennials enjoy the delight of the technology and do not care about losing their privacy and autonomy. The COVID-19 crisis amplified data colonialism, where even the governments of the world are legally tracking each citizen and their movement. But how this data is controlled by each government is something that can be critical for their freedom in the future.
The world has advanced from a technical and a technological standpoint, and there is no going back from that. As a matter of fact, India has benefited from this technological advancement due to the abundance of tech-savvy manpower. What we need to ensure as a country is that we have the necessary checks and balances in place to make sure that this data that is being collated is not used to influence or to control other countries and decisions.
There is a lot of deliberation coming from the government of India to ensure that we do not become a colony to tech corporates. Here are some considerations which are in the right direction and stand to benefit the growth of the nation. Number 1 on this list is the government is considering a data security law that requires data centers for all companies to be physically located within India. Similar laws are in places like in many countries like South Korea, which require the consent of the person associated with the data for it to be transmitted overseas. And China and Russia, as we all know, which mandated localization across multiple sectors for many kinds of personal data. Data localization will result in building data centers in India, which will bring in tens of thousands of jobs. And number 3, construction of local data centers will bring in investment in a big scale. The estimated cost for building a high-tech data center is $1 billion. And this will bring in a boom in the construction of data warehouses, which will also see the development of facilities in various regions across India. Number 4, this forced localization will result in some of the tech companies becoming permanent entities in the country, investing more, which in turn will bring in more revenue in the form of tax for our government. In the future, which is a world without borders, the companies that control data will control the world. So, we as a nation must come to develop appropriate privacy laws and implement them at the right time to prevent the trap of data colonization. I have come to the end of this episode of Logistically Speaking. Thank you for watching this episode. And well, if you like it, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and press the bell icon. Thank you very much and see you next week.